Welcome to the first week in Advent. Now, Advent is a time within the church that gets us prepared for Christmas, very much how Lent gets us ready for Easter. Now, to help us in our preparation, each week we light one of the Advent candles. Now, each of these candles represent a word that helps us as we think about what the birth of Christ means to us today, as well as what the second coming of Christ will look like. Now, this week, our word is hope. Now, one of the things we need to realize before we dive into what type of hope Jesus' birth gives us is to see what hope isn't. Now, one of the things that I know that I've confused hope with myself, and you might have done as well too, is the word wish. We say stuff like, I hope or wish tomorrow will be better. We say stuff like, I wish I had a new job, or I wish I had $1 million. Now, when we wish, we don't have an expectation that something different is really going to happen, do we? We wish for $1 million, but if we haven't bought that lottery ticket, or even if we hadn't, it's probably not going to happen, unless there's some way that we earn $1 million on a normal everyday basis. Now, a more realistic expectation we need to ask ourselves is, when we wish for a better tomorrow or to do a better job, is there anything behind that wish? What I mean by that is there's anything we're going to do to make these things happen. A wish is something we entertain, but we don't expect anything to ever come from it. Then there is hope. The hope we're talking about comes from God. This type of hope is about something actually happening. Hope pushes us into action. It's not content to be a fly-by-night idea, but something that invites us to live into the idea. When we hope for a better tomorrow, our hope requires us to put in the effort to make tomorrow better by praying or working on our relationships or living out the lessons that we hear about from the Bible or what we hear or learn on Sunday mornings. And this is what the hope we find in Advent is about. It's about Jesus making a change in our lives so that our tomorrow will be different. That the life changes we need to make are in reach. Not because of some sort of wishful thinking, but because we put our faith in God. And then we begin to do the things that Christ asks us to do. To love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and to love your neighbor as yourselves. And we put our hope and faith in God. God honors God's promises. And Jesus' birth reminds us of this when we hear songs like, O come, Emmanuel. Now, Emmanuel, as it's translated, is God is with us. So as you listen to this powerful hymn today, I want you to think about these questions. How is God with you? And what area of your life do you need God's hope in?
Until the Son of God appears.
Advent is a reminder of God's hope in our lives. My hope for us is that we take the time this week with God and start to ask where hope is at in our lives. And then the hardest part, figuring out how we can begin to live into this hope. Now may the hope of Christ be in your heart. Amen. And we'll see you next week.